13th Istanbul Fashion Conference continues in a digital setting and will continue with the next session. We focused on cotton and its sustainability. The previous session was about the fashion's sustainability. And now we will further discuss sustainability in two parts. Dilek Bill will be the moderator today from Purpose Sustainable Ideas. We will also have Sarah Wellersdorf from Boston Consulting Group and from Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Make Fashion Circular Program Manager Laura Balmont will be with us. And without further ado, I'll leave the floor to Dilek.
Teşekkür ederim. Duyuyorum şimdi. Teşekkür ederim. Değerli başkanlar, değerli üyeler, değerli İstanbul
Chairman, members,
hoş geldiniz.
Fashion lovers, welcome to the 13th Istanbul Fashion Conference. I'm so happy to see you. This year showed us how important digitalization is. It also showed us how things could go upside down with the split of a second. We will try to focus on sustainability in different aspects throughout this session, and I have valuable names with me. With this opportunity, I want to thank Heidi Karasu for focusing on sustainability in this year's conference because it affects all of us. And Sarah
Wildersdorf is our guest at this panel with Laura Baldwin. Sarah is the Managing Director and Global Head of Luxury Sector at Boston Consulting Group. And Laura Baldwin is in Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and she is the leader of Make Fashion Circular project. Sarah?
Hello. Morning.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Sarah, the world is going through incredibly difficult times for everyone, but fashion and luxury has been disproportionately hit.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us what some of the challenges are? And global sales will be down like 30 to 40% in 2020 when compared to 2019. And in that respect, we're talking about $500 to $625 billion. It's a bigger drop than the Great Recession. What are the scenarios? Can you tell us about the scenarios expected? And can you also tell us where sustainability will be in this scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we don't have a crystal ball. I wish we did, but our scenarios do suggest the drop's going to be anywhere from 30 to 45% for this year versus 2019. That obviously differs very much by geography, by category, by price point. So it's a little bit more nuanced than the absolute number. But you're right, when you're talking about numbers of that size, it's just a tremendous drop. We've seen this year most, especially brands and retailers, focusing on obviously protecting their employees, protecting their cash as best they can, but really having to pivot and think about their businesses differently. if I had to try and, if I have to think about some of the, there's not a lot of positives this year, but if I have to think about maybe some of the silver linings, we see, we often say we see 3 years of change in 3 months, and what you're seeing is an acceleration of some trends, consumer trends that were already happening. So, I'll give you 3 of the biggest, I think. So digital obviously was already very important in fashion and luxury, but we've seen an acceleration of that. In fact, depending on the country, but 14 to 17% of consumers shopping fashion online had never shopped online before. So that's a really big increase. And so that's structural acceleration is something we expect. Similarly with sustainability, this was obviously a trend. It was a real consumer-led trend already now for a number of years, but we're again expecting to see an even greater acceleration, and at least in some of the consumer research we're doing, you're seeing people care about it more not post-COVID yet, but in a new reality world than what they did pre-COVID. And interestingly, COVID or the situation of COVID-19 might be the first time where the whole population realizes their individual actions have societal consequences. And that's one of the reasons we believe that, sustainability as a consumer-led trend will only accelerate. You also, obviously, COVID's not the only thing going on this year. Everywhere in the globe, but especially in the US, where I currently live, we've also seen a tremendous push towards greater diversity and inclusivity. And the Black Lives Matter movement is also creating, a tremendous pivot in the area, again, driven by both consumers and brands. So, I'll pause there, but a couple of the big changes we're seeing.
Bağlantı mı koptu?
Is there something wrong with the connection? No, I think everybody is okay, and we can
Laura,
continue with.
Very good to have you on our panel as well. And when we had a talk with you before, we said clothes are an everyday necessity and for many an important aspect of self-expression. But the way clothes are made and used today is extremely wasteful and polluting. In 2017, when you have started the project of Make Fashion Circular at the foundation, at Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the ambition was to ensure clothes are made from safe and renewable materials and increase their use with new business models, and old clothes turn into new. What are you still on the same path? Are there any changes in your project?
Well, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here. And I think it's a great question around, are we still on the same path? I think Sarah's quite nicely highlighted the impacts that the COVID-19 situation is having on the whole industry. And it's been a moment for the fashion industry just to step back and pause and really understand, the impact that it is having. So as you mentioned, currently it operates in a way that is very wasteful and polluting. And there is an ongoing trend of making more clothes, but actually using them less. And what we've started to see over the recent months has been even more energy behind the fact that actually organizations are realizing that they need to move towards a circular economy to thrive, to really reduce the amount of resources that are being used, whilst at the same time increasing the amount of income that is coming in. And as you mentioned, one of the key elements of that will be to make sure that clothes are used more. And the trends that Sarah was pointing to, increase of e-commerce, more awareness of sort of sustainability challenges, are all pointing towards online platforms such as ThreadUp, which are a resale platform, actually becoming more popular. People are sat at home, perhaps looking to find ways to shop online, but equally finding new ways to interact with clothes that can keep them in use for much longer.
Laura, thank you so much. And Sarah, we want to thank your input as well. And this marks the end of the first session of this first part of this session. And shortly we'll